Hi everyone. So today we're going to talk about the merging between the economic world and the spiritual world. If you remember and if you follow this series, there was this video that I talk about anarcho-capitalists where the society was getting richer and richer for the rich and the base, the poor people was widening and we were eradicating the middle class by different ways. And so, but today we're talking about the effect of the conditioning of our society. They're coming from friends, from the media, the government, and our family, which in some way shape us into being part of the economic system, the pyramid that we see. So the elite on the top, the rich people on top, and the middle class and the poor people on the bottom. And for a lot of us, we believe that our conditioning is stuck with us, either from emotional conditioning, which keep us suffering, or economical conditioning, meaning that either our education forge us into be part of the society as they are dictating us. But it's not true. And the spiritual process is about removing this conditioning, removing this conditioning so we don't have to play the movie or the character that we are imposed by society. And what it means is that it, the elite are forcing that conditioning into our brain so we can stay where we're at, so they can stand over us in the form of power, in the form of control. Unless we have conditioning that is keeping us acting the way that is directed from society, then less they have power over us, and then we can subtract, we can use society, we can use the economic system, but we are not depending on it, and we are a lot less controlled by it. And if you want, you can live in a mountain, but for most of us it's not the purpose. And so what does it mean is that all information that we receive when we're younger shape us into believing that we have to live a certain way. And it's okay if we feel happy and we feel fulfilled. Some of us were lucky and some of us are less happy. But the problem it's when we are feeling empty and when we're feeling a sense of meaning. And then we think that we're stuck with this destiny. For me, it happened in my early 20s. I was good at school. I studied economy and then master in environment. And I worked for the government back then. And I was never happy. And I just thought that this is what life has to offer. And that either studying more or being promoted will give me somehow higher level of happiness. But every time I would climb up, I would feel more stuck and less happy. And eventually I get rid of everything, and I even quit my master even if I was only 3 months away from finishing my thesis. And I moved to the west coast of my country, and then I didn't speak English. My first language is French. For the first 25 years of my life, I only spoke French. And even if I had to learn English at school, I was just cheating. I was just the worst student because as an immigrant, you want to fit in, you want to adapt yourself. And so it was a big shift for me to be confident in what I was and into giving up all identity that I had accumulated in the city and to be nothing. It's scary because our ego wants to be something to the eyes of people. But because I was so unhappy, and when I discover in the process of finishing my thesis, I discovered rock climbing, real rock climbing. Then I felt closer to the people I just met than my friend I had since high school or even earlier. But it was like it's like in the Matrix when you have to jump over the building. It's the leap of faith. It's throwing yourself into the unknown. And for most people, it's the first big challenge, because we are ready to get rid of what we don't like, but it's easier when we know what to expect in exchange, like an investment. I give you this money if I know I will get a return from it. But in spirituality, it doesn't work like that. You have to get rid of everything, and only when you have nothing left, then you are rewarded with more than you can imagine. And for me, it was a solid year of transition, because I didn't know how to work with my hand. I work in the office as well. And so I start at the beginning of the ladder. I work as a painter. I work because my friends were working in construction, and they thought I could join them, but I had an accident a couple of years before from a ski accident, and I thought my body was too weak to work in real construction, which it was. But from climbing every day and working physically every day, I got stronger. And within a year of working as a painter, landscaping, housekeeping, and all kind of manual work, which were low paid and extremely physical under bad condition, because often I had to work under the rain as well, I got stronger. And after a year, I felt confident to start real construction. And first, I started with renovation, and eventually, every year, because it was a boom, construction boom where I lived, and I ended up every time having $5 an hour more for my wage. Every year I would come back. And because I didn't want to work so much and climbing became such a passion for me, I ended up working less and less. So every time I was making $5 an hour more, instead of making money, I decided to work 1 month less, 1 month less every month. So from the first year, I work after I finished paying my student loans on the first year. I accumulated enough money to travel for, I think, 5 months, and the next year I think I traveled 6 7 months, and every time I travel 8 months, and then work 4 months, and then 9 months, and then work 3 months, etc. And the last year I only worked 17 days before I started the spiritual journey. Hopefully you guys can hear me. It started to rain pretty hard, but let's try to keep going. And so by removing myself from the conditioning that I had to be continuing what I was doing, which is what was expected from my friend, my family, my society, my thesis director, I find happiness. It was a big void in the transition, but I find peace, I find happiness, and climbing became a real passion. And I didn't know back then, when I lived in a city, that like working in construction would be something I could be proud of. It was something manual and something I kind of looked down from. But after I started, it's like, and then you can do your own, at first you do your own renovation. And eventually in the last couple of years, I also built my own house, full ground up from nothing, into designing the house, into managing, buying the material, and building with a team. And I gained pride from building something. And I didn't have that when I was under here. I didn't have this possibility in my head. I just see up the ladder as my options, and I didn't thought that it was possible to exit mainstream society. I still visit my friend and family sometime, and I still buy stuff at the grocery. But there's many things I don't do from society which limit my dependency on it. And there was a long stretch of time where I spent barely no money. And so it just depends where you are in your phase, and less you have in your head from mainstream, less you need money, you need to work, and you feel more free. Now I feel I'm on the other side, and there's more need, maybe a desire eventually to start a family, And but there's more need of comfort. During my spiritual journey, I spent maybe 20, I think it was $22,000 Canadian in 7 years. I thought the money would last me 2 years, and it last me 7 years. And the two last year, I barely, had almost nothing, but I spent an average $100 American a month, everything included, lodging, traveling, food, etc. So, and that was until 2019. And so I went really far from dissociating myself from mainstream conditioning. Now I feel I'm not under, I haven't worked for a long time, but I've been lucky that I build my own house and I can rent it, sublease it. And that's how I make a little bit of income while figuring out my next move, which I'm designing. I wish I'm in the process of designing a building plan for a future healing center, holistic center. What I want to share about this with you is that the main thing is to feel if your life bring the same thing as relationship. Does it bring growth? Does it make you fulfill? Does it bring freedom into your life and happiness, or it make you shrink and make you small? And then, like, I don't know, if you're at the end of your life, maybe it's hard to think about a turnover. But if you're in the early 20s, 30s, even 40s or 50s, and you feel that you've never been aligned, there's a way out to it. And how is the way out? I'm not going to explore too much in details because there's going to be more video. I'm going to go deeper and deeper. But the process is, one, stop consuming conditioning from mainstream. It's like, if you want to stop being fat physically, then you have to at least slow down consuming bad food or fast food. And obviously stopping it totally would be better. And then the second process is to eat better food. And so for psychological obesity, that I call, we have to stop or slow down the influx of bad information or mainstream information. Sometimes it's entertaining, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's educative, but it still shapes our reality. And we don't realize how this information shapes our thought, shapes our way of behaving, and our thought becomes our action becomes our life. If we want to subtract ourselves from there and have different action, we need to have different action to have a different life. And to have different action, we need to have different thought. And to have different thought, we need to have different information coming into our mind, influencing our thought. And that's the first step. Slow down, ideally stop the influx of mainstream conditioning, and start only educating or absorbing information that is aligned with your higher purpose. In the between, which is the hardest, is to stop all information altogether. Meaning, because it's easier for the ego mind or for the body to trade one type of food for another type of food. But at the same time, if we have fat, we need to burn it to be healthier, mainly if you're overweight. And for most of us, we have psychological obesity. And to remove it, if we are over consuming good food, it will be better than if we are over consuming bad food. But it still won't resume or solve the problem of our obesity. And so we need to consume less so we can burn what is not useful in our body or in our mind anymore. The same way as if we want to burn fat, we need a calorie deficit So our body can eat the cell fat naturally. And then so we eat good quality of food or good quality of information and less than necessary or less than our ego wants. Because if we're just over consuming, then we become saturated with another kind of information, or we won't lose weight. And that's why sattvic practice like meditation, yoga, and tai chi are all practices that allow to create emptiness in the mind, so we can feel comfortable with learning less and thinking less, the same way as we need to learn to be comfortable by eating less and to feel hungry, to not be scared of feeling hungry, to not be scared of boredom. So feeling hungry is the same thing as kind of boredom, because as soon as we feel our stomach growling, we worry. So we want to distract ourselves and consume something, and with things like, oh, I'm hungry, but in fact, we're not really hungry. We're just not starving, and there's a big gap in between. So it's not about being anorexic or having eating disorder. It's really attuning yourself to what really the body needs, and not fulfilling what the mind needs. And for our mind is the same. As soon as we have nothing to do, we have spare time, we're waiting, we're bored, we are trying to distract ourselves. And most of us are binging, including myself. I only have a phone since 2021, so it hasn't been that long, but I became addicted like everyone else really quickly. And so it's about learning to consume with moderation. But it's really, really, really hard to consume with moderation when we've been an addict for so long. Most of the time, we have to go through cold turkey. So meaning we were addicted, over consuming. And so first, it's not by moderation that we achieve balance. It's by cold turkey, stopping it completely for some time. And after that, try to consume it slowly a little bit, by moderation, in balance, in a healthier quality, and yeah, and so you're not stuck here. Nobody's stuck here. Some people have harder condition of life, harder upbringing, living in a more challenging country. I was lucky because I was born in Thailand and I immigrated when I was a baby in Canada. And I'm happy that I have a Canadian passport, even if I don't want to live there anymore. But at the same time, yeah, a Canadian passport allowed me to travel a little bit more freely. It's a good passport. There's good condition, but I don't have any access of the condition anymore because I've been so long since I've been away. But because to be part of the Canada social benefit, you gotta be part of the pyramid. But now I've been away for so long, I don't have access to any of the benefit. So a lot of people are scared of walking away because they don't want to lose their benefit of being part of a society, of a system, of a, but it has pros and cons. And it's scary to be, the people here are responsible for the whole system. And they believe, they stay here happily because they believe that the society, the one on top, is responsible for them. So school or healthcare, if something happened to me, then I don't have the money to pay for surgery. So I'm relying on society to help me pay for my surgery. But when you're outside, you have to take care of your own health. And if something happens, then you have to pay for yourself. And so society has perks, but you're paying for it. And by paying for it, you have benefit, but you also controlled by the desire of society. It's the same way as a stray cat is more free. It can roam around, but it might not eat a meal every day. And there's good owner. There's people who have dogs and cats and let them roam around in their yard. But there's also owners who keep their pet in their apartment or locked up or in a chain or in a cage, but they have a meal every day. And most animal will suffer, and the owner will say, well, I'll do that for you, because if not, you're gonna run around, you're gonna hurt yourself, you're gonna hit by a car, you're gonna and then or you're gonna be attacked by another cat or dog. And so some owner are well intended, but at the same time it's a form of control. All of us are born, including animals, are born to feel that we want freedom. And this is what consciousness is about. Consciousness is freedom. Love is freedom. And without that freedom, then we don't really know what living is. We live in a system and we live in fear. Being outside is scary. Being outside the system is overwhelming, most at the beginning. Because at first, if you haven't lived in a community yet, then you're on your own for a long time. You feel disconnected in interest with everybody you know, and you are performing a persona that allow you to interact with others without people thinking that you're too weird. And that's what I was doing for a long time. I lived in Montreal, or I live in the city until I was 24, and I loved it when I was younger. But as I aged into my teenage year and to young adult, I felt so odd. I didn't know what to flirt in the bar. I didn't know I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of people who loved me, but I didn't fit in somehow. And but I just didn't know that there was something more outside of that. I think now with the internet, it's a lot easier for people to discover bubbles of other community. There is online community, but there's also real people community of expat like me who are living in what we call conscious community or spiritual community. The difference is mostly conscious community has a flavor of spirituality, but they're not. They're in between. They're between discovering spirituality. Sometimes also one foot in both worlds, I would say, between making money more consciously, enjoying life, staying outside the corporate, but more in a playful way, more at the teenager state. Spirituality, real spiritual community, are more inward, more everyone is on their own journey. So you can be staying in an ashram like I did for many years with other people, but we are socializing a lot less. A lot of people are not necessarily introvert, but the journey is inward. And a lot of people like me had a long practice, so we study and we practice the emptying of the mind. I'm going in every direction. I don't know if there's structure. What can I say more? But for me, it's scary, but it's the best journey. If you can face, also when you start walking away, those people gonna start arguing and blaming and they're questioning your choices, like, oh, I'm taking a year off, or I'm moving city, and people that loves you is like, oh, but you change. They're gonna make you doubt what is your inner feeling. It's hard to break free from expectation from others, and we already have our own mind to walk away from, but then you have also to walk away, and I think this is the hardest part, to walk away from everyone that loves you and that you love them, but they are I say it, walking away from adversity. Adversity is people who want the best for you, like your parents, and there are, but they had the path in their mind for you. Like me, I was studying in my master, and they think that I'm just climbing up the ladder, and there's a lot of pressure as an Asian to represent the whole family. And it took many years for them to accept my path, or to be okay with my choices. Like I would say, a solid 7-8 years. And I think they did it by love, because they were worried, and I think the worry was around thinking that I would be a burden as an adult for them if I didn't have a proper job, if I stayed disconnected with society for too long. But I never asked them money. I left home when I had just turned 19, and I never asked them a penny. I worked either part-time or full-time in the summer, and paid for my own school, apartment, food, and everything. And I think it gave them confidence that even if they couldn't understand my choice, that I would be fine. And now, many years later, 20 years later, I'm still fine, and then I still have project. I'm still healthy. I'm still self-sufficient, and I have more wisdom. And so I think it's challenging for people from mainstream to understand that you can be so different. They're not aware that this kind of path exists. And it's not even sure that this path is for everyone. I feel that I see some people somehow are being successful and somehow happy with being in mainstream, at least momentarily, because mainstream has its perks, has its benefit. And I did enjoy it for some time when I was a lot younger. I did enjoy and appreciate being where I grew up there. And I think the problem is the same as when you're in a relationship. It's not because you are in a relationship with someone, even if you love them, that it's meant to last forever. Even if you were deeply in love with, you just need to feel within yourself if there's growth or if there's shrinking. It cannot be always up, but in every cycle you get to feel if you keep growing, or if the peak is already past and you're just digging yourself down. And the same thing with your education, or the same thing. I love learning. I love being at school. I was in the public system for a long time, and I love every bit of it. But eventually, I reached my peak, and I was never able to find joy or to find meaning with what I was learning, with what I was achieving in the city. And it's the same thing in relationship. And then that's when you know you have to acknowledge that this part of your life is finished, and then you have to diverge. And it's nothing wrong with Canada or the government or a partner. It just means that it's evolving a certain way and you're evolving in a different way. There's people who are migrating from like really dangerous country where there's actual war, and they're arriving in Canada, and for them it's the best place in the world, and it's worth it for them to feel home and to feel connected and feeling that it can grow instead of living in a place where there's just fear of even just breathing and living. And so there's nothing wrong with something that you are moving away from. It's just, it's within yourself. Does it brings more growth, more connection, more love, more peace, more, and then you can explore it more. And same thing with your partner, and same thing with everything in life. There's and then if not, then you have to like slowly walk away from it. Find a conscious way to walk away from it. Doesn't mean if you have children that it make you shrink or it make you give you a headache that, oh, sorry, I gotta go on my spiritual journey. I know that's what the Buddha did, but I'm not preaching for that. There is responsibility, and there's a way for each one of us to be spiritually responsible toward a higher self, and also being responsible for the people who are impacted in our matrix life. Happily, I didn't have kids to take care of when I was in my journey, which made it a lot easier. But I've seen a lot of beautiful souls as well who had high level of responsibility and were still able to fulfill and satisfy their spiritual thirst. All right, 30 minutes already. Time fly. I had so many. We're at number 6 right now. I have hundreds of those pictograms. So I know there's probably more questions. Feel free to ask anything you want. I don't know if I'm going to go in order. So far, I've been close to going in order. And if there's question, if you want me to go deeper into one subject, just comment and then I'll do my best. And then if you do enjoy this kind of content, then make sure you subscribe and help me out with the algorithm. Thank you.